Hi, this is Everett, Everett's Watercolors. Welcome to my studio. And today there's another demonstration painting of watercolor, which is one of my favorite media. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to have a lot of fun. We're going to work a lot with spray bottles and lots of different techniques that I'm going to use today. But I'm going to do a landscape. And the landscape's going to be a wooden trail through the woods, and it's going to be very colorful. And so let's go to my painting table. Let me get started. I'll go overhead. Okay. All right, here's my reference photograph. You can see, look at that. See that? And see, I'm not worrying about the season right now. I like the colors. I mean, the reds and oranges and yellows and the brown. But really, on this pathway down here is what I'm really interested in. The wooded path. That's really the whole purpose of this whole painting. The outside area, very colorful with lots of texture. That's why I'm going to use spray bottles today. Now, so during my design work, this was a photograph I used as a reference, but then I took a black and white. I did a black and white on my computer, and you can see here the highlights here, the light values is in the pathway, and there's some light values or middle values up here like this, some of the light areas, but mainly it's a middle value, a lot of middle values, some darks with the trees and so forth. So that's really what I work on. I work on the value of the different colors I'm going to use, some lights and darks. So it's always good to have a reference diagram of values and so forth. So I did a little design study here. I took the drawing and put it down there, and you can see here the pathway is going to be light, and the background up here in the trees is going to have some middle values up there. This tree now also is going to have a light value because it showed up here almost as light as a pathway. Then there's some dark areas in the background along the sides. So that's kind of my value study. And also I'm going to add down here, I'm kind of playing around with adding a couple figures in the pathway. So we'll go into that design also. Okay, so I put that aside. And now some of my tools I'm using, I've already transferred my drawing here to the my quarter sheet of 140-pound Gemini watercolor paper, archival. It measures 15 inches wide and about 11 and a half inches tall. That's quarter sheet. And I've got it mounted on a board here with some tape. Now a couple tools I want to show you here, introduce to you, that I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using Frisket Film. Now Frisket Film, I'm going to mask in the pathway in that tree. So the Frisket Film comes in sheets, 9 by 12, and they're on my website under Frisket Film. And this is a very good brand here. It's a high tack, so it really sticks to the paper really well. And then also I use a knife, X-Acto knife, which I use to cut the. And I'm going to demonstrate that to you here before I get started painting. And then also another material I'm using the stencil film. The stencil film, I can cut it up in different sizes and shapes and so forth, and that helps me also isolate some of the colors. So Frisket film and stencil film. Those are the two products I'm going to be using today, or two tools I'll be using today, along with my watercolors. Okay, so let me demonstrate here how I use the Frisket film. And I'm going to take it. This is just a sheet of paper here, and I'm going to this pathway, just like the pathway I drew out here on a piece of paper right here. It's a pathway that it's in my design, and then this is a piece of Frisket film. What I do first of all, I isolate. I use a pair of scissors and I cut down the size that I'm going to use for about. So I'm going to mask off just about that little bit right there, just to show you the bend and so forth. Okay, so I use a pair of scissors to get me a size of what I want to use. All right, then the next thing I do is, now this thing is sticky, so I found a technique here a long time ago how to take it off. So I use a piece of good old Scotch tape, one for the front, one for the back, and then I put one side on the Frisket side, and I put the other one in the backing, right behind it, and I keep my finger in between so I don't lose connection here with it between the two. All right, and then what I do there is I got a piece of tape on the back and front, and then I pull it apart, and you can see the Frisket film come off. Okay, so that's how I get using the Scotch tape on the front and back. That's how I get the Frisket film off, because it's really stuck on there. And then I put this aside because I'm going to put my piece back on it when I'm finished, because I can use it again. This is reusable material. I'll take off this piece of tape here. Okay, so I got the Frisket film here in my hand. Now I cover the area that I'm going to protect. So I cover here. I'll put this over top. I'm going to cover that curve in the road. So I put that down here. So I'm going to get this part right here, just the large thing, the large bend here. Now I take my X-Acto knife and make sure it's nice and sharp. You've got, and then I start at one end over here, and I just carefully. Now you don't have to press very hard, just enough to get through that first layer. You don't want to go too deep into it. You just want to have just enough pressure on the knife to cut through the masking Frisket film, and then you curve. And I curve it around. So you need a drawing or something below that you're going to follow, a pattern, and that's what I've got. Okay, all right, that takes it down, and then I cut off the other part here, which is the other side of the pathway, and I go around with the X-Acto knife, and I follow my design, follow my line. So with this masking fluid, with this stencil film, you can see through. It's very transparent. Okay, now to take it off, what I do is I'm going to take the outside part off and leave the stencil film on the pathway. So I pick up one end and I peel it off. It's been cut. And anything that comes apart goes back on this little piece over here that I have. Okay, pick it up. And I pull it off. Right on around. And I take the remainder of it off. Okay. It tears very easily, so if you do pull part of it off, that's going to happen. And I use the X-Acto knife to go underneath the edge. That's on. Okay, so that part's down here. Now the other part, I go in with the X-Acto knife on the edge, underneath the edge. Just find the edge of it, pick it up, and then I pull this part off. And I put the part that I cut out, I put it on this piece of paper that I had that I cut. Remember, I cut it off the back before. So now I saved pieces now that can be used again on this circuit. This is this part I can save again to be used again on another painting. All right, so now I've got that. Now I've got that Frisket film now on that space. You can see you can see the reflection now in the light. That's the pathway, or that portion of the pathway is covered with the Frisket film. Okay, so now that's protected so that I can paint around it and save that area. So that's how I use the Frisket film. I just wanted to show that to you very quickly. It's very simple to use, very economical way to masking, and it's a little bit easier than masking fluid sometimes. And once you put it on, it's just ready to go. All right, now I make sure all the edges are connected, and I'm ready to go. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is mix up a little bit of paint. I'll get my tape out of the way. Now I've got spray bottles over here in my palette. I'm going to use a range of colors. I've got orange. These are my palette in a bottle, Everett Watercolors dot sprayers. Palette in a bottle dot sprayer sold exclusively on Everett Watercolors. These are all dot sprayers. I'm going to use dot sprayers with the white top one. Okay, so I've got the orange. I've got the yellow lemon. I've got the Pyro Red in a bottle. I've got the Burnt Sienna in a bottle. And I've got Yellow Ochre. Okay? So I've got 5 colors there. And I may use them all, but it just depends on how I want to get on. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wet the paper. I'll use a Hake brush. This is a large Hake. And I'm going to use a medium-sized Hake with the color. Okay? So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get a little bit of color out here. So I'm going to mix up little bit of yellow ochre. I think I'm going to put a base. I'm going to put a background color down. A little bit of yellow ochre, maybe a little burnt sienna. So I'm going to cover a lot of paper with a background color because it's it's going to have a warm. It's going to have a warm color anyway because it's an autumn scene. But I like the colors. That's why I chose that. And then I may pick up a little dab of orange, just a little dab of orange, just get a little color. So I mix up a nice light color. I want it nice and light. I want it too dark. So this is going to be my base coat. All right. So I'm going to go in now with my large Hake, and I'm going to wet the paper. I'm going to wet the whole. Now in my areas have covered now. I don't have to worry about. They're already covered. I'm not going to get any paint on that area because they're covered with the Frisket film. So I'm going to wet the paper down the areas that I want to get wet. That I want to put this base coat on. And all my areas I don't want on is all protected with the Frisket film. Okay, now you can see that's the paper is wet. You can see the shine on the paper. Okay, and I'm going to leave it that way, so it's wet. Okay, now I'll put the large brush aside. Now I'll pick up the small or middle-sized Hake. I'm just going to go in now and put in a little bit of color here in the background. And I might leave some white paper showing it. I just want to have a base coat down here to get started. So it's going to have a nice light warm background color, base color, and so that's really how I got started. Now I'm going to take a paper towel and I'm going to wipe up the edges here. And I've got a tape around the edges, keeps the paper from moving or whatever, and it also makes a nice border when I'm finished. So I'm wiping up the excess down the edge. Excess water. Okay. All right. Now I think you put the blow dryer on. So I'm going to stop the film and go ahead and dry it, and I'll come back when I got it dry. Okay, I'm back. I just dried it a little bit. It's still not completely dry. It's still a little bit. The shine's gone away. And it's still good, not damp, but it's ready to play with. So I'm going to go ahead now and start putting in some colors. And I'm going to use my reference photograph here just to take a look at some of the colors I'm going to put on there. So I'm going to start with the lighter one, the yellow. And I'm going to use a dot spray bottle, Plein Air dot sprayer. And I prime the pump over here in my rinse bucket. And I just use a light tapping motion. And I'm going to put a little bit of yellow up in this area here, up in the top. So a couple of dots around here. So that's where the majority of the yellow is, right in that section, right in there, up in that top. Just a little bit of yellow. Okay, now I'm going to pick up the orange. Now shake the bottle before, make sure the paint's mixed up. Shake the bottle lightly. And then you prime the pump by just going over and spraying into, get the paint up into the nozzle. And then I'm going to put some orange in here now, just now down by this area here. I think the orange along the edge here, along the edge of the yellow. So I'm just look at a photograph, get some ideas of where I want to put some colors here. Okay, I'll put that down, and then the next one I'm gonna pick up is the Pyro Red. Now this is really dark, so I'll just start with a little bit of this Pyro Red in a bottle, and just prime the pump. Now this is really gonna be red, and and very strong. It goes cut across the middle here. It goes up to the top, and it's also down the side over here. Okay, we got that. And then I got burnt sienna now. Burnt sienna in a bottle. Same thing. Prime the pump. Put a little bit on this on the sides over here, where some a little more shadows on this side over here. Put the burnt sienna on the side. Here along the bottom here, some shadows here at the bottom, a little bit darker. Okay, and then the yellow ochre. Got yellow ochre in a bottle. Prime the pump. Get some of that down here at the bottom. Okay, and I'm going to put a little more. Put a little more red down here. Is just some leaves on the ground here. I'm going to put in. So this is an easy way to paint trees with a lot of leaves on it. Just use a spray bottle. Okay, now what I'm going to do now, in order to get that spread out a little bit better, I'm going to use just water, just plain water. Palette in a bottle dot sprayer with with a white top. That's the dot sprayer, and I'm going to use just plain water. Now what this does now, hold it up a little bit higher now, and I come down, and that's going to spread those dots out. I'm going to spread that paint out where I get a little more coverage on the paper. Okay, all right. Well, that's a start. Okay, and I can even pick the paper up a little bit and let the water run. Let it run a little bit more from side to side. Okay, all right. I'm gonna blow dry this, so I'm gonna turn off the video and get the streamer, and I'll be right back when I'm finished. So we'll take a break. Okay, come back. What I've done is dried off pretty well, and what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna take the Frisket film off. So what I'm gonna do is start with this little tree, this little bush over here, and I would go underneath the edge, find the edge of the Frisket film, and you pull it up, and then come up this way. A little bush, and then you have a piece of paper here to put it on. Put that one there. Then I'm going to have the other one. I will take up the pathway. Find an edge, and pull that up. And sometimes it will tear, and you just find another edge and continue to pull. Be gentle, pull it up very gently. Take your time. You can see now it's kept the shape of what I put in there, just like I showed you in the example. So now we're going to have a good shape there for the pathway, and that's what I wanted to do today. Let's just do the pathway. Okay. I'll put that over here on this side. That little section down here. All right, and I left a little spot here where I think I'm going to put some figures. So I picked up a little spot here when I started. There, a little section right there. Okay, put that aside. All right, so now I have the pathway. And what I'm going to do now is go ahead and start putting in the colors there. And this bush here is basically a nice light bush. It's going to be, if you remember the photograph, it's a nice bright yellow orange, and then the pathway is a nice light pathway here. Probably use a little bit of yellow ochre on that and burnt sienna. So get a little bit of orange here for the bush, a little bit of yellow. So we've just put the again. I'm putting another base coat in of this yellow orange for this small bush here. It's like a little bit of darker area, like red. Put a little red in with that orange. You get a little reddish orange. Let's do that'll be the base coat. Now let's get the pathway in. So we'll start with a little bit of yellow ochre and burnt sienna. Get a nice dirt color. And I'll go in here and get a nice light pathway. As I come forward, I'll get a little bit darker as I come forward. I pick up a little burnt sienna, a little bit of ultramarine blue to get a little bit of dark brown in there. Make this a dirt road. It'll be dirt, so it'll be dirt. Pathway. All right, now I'm going to put in a couple of trees here now that makes sense. So we'll take a little darker color. We'll get ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, give me a dark brown. I'm going to start putting in some of these background, some background trees back here that in the background. Put another one over here. Background trees. Get some limbs on this tree over on the right. And we'll put another tree in here. And that'll give my brother. Mix up some more of that dark brown. And there's another big tree right here next to this bush. And another one back here. So the whole purpose of this drawing was to do the pathway in the woods. The trees were just fun to do with spray bottles and splattering and so forth. And you can see here, you see how bright they are, and even brighter than the photograph, because I wanted to really punch these up with a lot of color. Of course, the autumn colors, oranges and reds and yellows, are a lot brighter, more dramatic here with this colors I have here. So that's why I chose this format with these colors, because I wanted to really show off the differences. Okay, let's see. I might not be able to, I might not have any more detail on this one. Let's see. I may want to put a little more texture in this bush over here. Let's get a little more yellow, a little more orange. Put some more color in there, cover up some of those whites. There's branches in here with lots of yellow on. Okay, now what am I want to do? Now I'm going to try and put in a couple figures and So what I do is I'm going to take just a really going to just do them in silhouette. No detail. Just show how we do a possible figure combination here. So I'm going to mix up a little bit of dark color, ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, maybe a little bit of Payne's gray, and a little bit of quinacridone violet, maybe. Nice dark color. Now let's see. Now what I've done, I've gone ahead and done a sketch ahead of time, just a sketch of what I want to do. So those are my figures, at least my figurette, a silhouette is what I want to go by. So that's kind of what I'm starting with, something like that. So come up with some kind of design that makes sense. And I'm going to start. You start with a nice wet brush. This is a round brush, number 8, a Skoda. And I'm going to start with the head. And then you get the body, and it's just a figure, just a silhouette. I'll have them walking, so I'm going to move the legs a little bit so to show them in stride of some kind. It's kind of a side view. And this figure here, we'll have him walking ahead. And I'm going to put a little walking stick in his hand. Little walking stick. Then right next to him, I'm going to make another figure, a little bit smaller, in silhouette. The head, the body. There. Okay. So that's my two figures walking in the woods right here on the pathway. And I'll let that dry. And I think I'll look around now. Let's see if I can, any more elements I want to put. I may want to put just a little bit of, I don't need more color. I may want to put some colors that join in here. Let's see up here. A little bit of orange and red. And I might want to go up here and put some more strokes up here in these trees where the branches are. Kind of fill that in slightly. Around this bush, I'm going to kind of cover it up just a little bit more. And I think around the edge of the pathway here, I'm going to darken up just slightly, show them little shadows and maybe some grass and weeds growing along the edge of the pathway. I'm going to break that up a little bit. Integrate those figures in with this landscape. Over here, kind of fill this in a little, just slightly. Put some dark shadows in here along the edge of the pathway where. And put little shadows along the edge of the pathway here to kind of indicate that this some grass and bushes along the edge of the trail. I'll take the yellow ochre now. Last touch, I'm going to take the yellow ochre. Go around these figures. I don't want that halo. I don't want that halo there. I want to get around them. So kind of combine them with the landscape. Okay. Well, that's my finished painting for wooded pathway, wooded trail in the woods, with a couple there walking there along in a nice autumn scene. So let me put a mat around that. We'll put a mat around that so you can see. Now we can see some of the. There we are. Okay, that kind of shows it off there. So that's my painting today. A wooded trail in the woods.